Why, hello and welcome to episode 11 of Gamer Disclaimer. We've broken past that double digit barrier and now we are into season two, I guess, if that's a word that somebody would use to describe when we circle back around to now it's the first episode of the next 10 episodes that we're going to be doing of Gamer Disclaimer with Meg and Wade. Meg, how are you doing on this fine day that we're recording?
Yes, doing well. We are a week out from baby, exactly as of recording. So when this episode comes out, baby should be here. So that's exciting. It's crazy to think, but yes, I'm doing good. Feeling good. House is finally getting healthy, and it's kind of cold here today, but it's supposed to be warm the rest of the week. But overall, doing well. So no complaints. How are you, Mr. Wade?
I'm very good. Really got some time travel shenanigans going on between when we record and when these things are going to post. Just a peek behind the curtain. It's St. Patrick's Day, which is why I'm wearing green and Mag isn't, because Mag famously hates the Irish.
Sorry.
Can't help it. He hates the Irish probably as much as he hates JRPGs. Or maybe he just doesn't understand them. Could be either one of those things.
I mean, probably the same, but nah, green's not my favorite color. I don't own any green clothes actually, so right
I'm only wearing green for Xbox. I didn't even realize that it was an Irish tradition.
now you know. No green,
Yep.
no green drinks here. Just gamer and disclaiming about gaming.
Learning so much. Yes, yes, yes. Much
Yeah.
fun.
Well,
What have you been playing this week, Mag?
let me tell you about it. So, I have been playing all sorts of different stuff. I downloaded Grapple Dog for cheap from the Steam sale and have been playing a few levels in that, which has been fun. Of course, League of Legends and Marvel Rivals always seem to make their way into my rotation. And then Haley and I played Split Fiction. We played through it on the first hour of it on stream yesterday, which was really fun. It's my first intro into the It Takes Two Split Fiction style of game. And so, yeah, so those were pretty fun and enjoyable. I'm going to try and get as many games in as I can this week because I'm not sure what gaming time will look like once the new baby's here. I think I'll still have time to play, obviously, but that's the goal. This is not just like, but I am planning to bring my Steam Deck to the hospital for some during the downtime while we're just still hanging out in there. I jokingly told Haley I should bring the PS5. We could play Split Fiction while the baby's sleeping, but she didn't seem to be on board with that. But I did buy a second controller today for PS5. If you watch my stream, stick drift was a big issue, and I died many times just because of the stick drift. But yeah, just playing a little bit of that, and yeah, nothing else. I haven't dove into the Super Nintendo games yet. I haven't really had a whole lot of time, so hoping to get into those soon as well. So, yep. What about you, Wade?
Well, bouncing off of what you said, I also have. It was very entertaining watching your stream, watching the stick drift just take you over because a substantial amount of time, no shade on Haley, never shade on Haley, of you was spent waiting for Haley to catch up to you, which required your character to just wait. But waiting for your character meant walking to the left. So you would like post up against a wall or a barrel or
Yeah.
whatever you could do so that you didn't have to deal with any of that nonsense. I played through all of God of War remastered or whatever it was on the PlayStation 3 on a controller that had stick drift on it before I just got a new one. But so that was another instance where every once in a while Kratos was just wandering off to the left. It was a grand old time.
Mm.
And you didn't mention this on the stream or how I didn't know this before that you did not play It Takes Two. You did
No,
not play A Way Out.
no, and
You
I
did not
I own
play
it.
Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons.
No, I own It Takes Two. I just haven't played it yet. So
Very fun. Very fun.
yeah, game of the year.
It did win Game of the year that it was nominated. And Josef Fares, I thought that he like made himself a character from the thumbnail at the very beginning, the guy that created all of those games, but it turns out it was just some other person. I don't know. Yeah, Split Fiction still looks very cool. I hope that you guys have fun with it. And then if and when you finish it, then told Haley that I would need to play through it with you as the the other character that you didn't play as because, well, like you were playing last night and you had a character with a sword and Haley had a whip, so you got to play through it again
Of course.
to be the whip character.
Of
Gotta
course.
see what that's about.
Did you play any Elden
So-
Ring this week?
I played some Elden Ring. I have a little. I'm just looking through the recently played games that I had over here. So, my achievement. I thought I was out, but when I think I'm out, they drag me right back in. They're doing like something. It's called like a boss rush right now, where they post a character from a video game. So I think it was who's the last boss in Castle Crashers? It was the wizard, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, the evil wizard. So like the evil wizard was like weak to games from action adventure or something like that, and it was strong against beat 'em ups or something like that. So you wanted to unlock achievements that they were weak to so that you would do extra damage and be able to defeat them. And what that ends up doing is making me go back into my backlog and trying out a bunch of different games. So I actually downloaded a game off of Game Pass that just came out this week called Mullet Mad Jack, which is, I think, a boomer shooter is maybe what they call it. It's kind of like Doom in that you're just, running as I don't think there's a sprint. No, there is a sprint button on it. There's like a slide button. But the conceit of it is that every kill that you get adds more time to your timer to finish the level. That's how it works. So it's very, very fast and frenetic. You got to keep moving on those kind of things. I also played some Injustice 2 just to try and unlock some random achievements. I never got into like the competitive fighting game scene and those kind of things, but I really did enjoy the story in Injustice 2 and, seeing what all the different characters can do. I played some Brotato, which is a Vampire Survivors like that I think I've talked about previously. I played X-Force Under Attack, which was like a little shoot 'em up where you're constantly firing towards the top of the screen as everything comes at you, Galaga-like maybe is what they call it. I played another game that I will talk about in our achievement of the week.
Ooh,
I played some Rare Replay because in Rare Replay there was a handful of achievements for doing snapshots, which were like, it's like 5 little challenges from a game that Rare made forever ago to just go back and revisit it without having to play through the entire game again. And I played some Elden Ring. So that is what I have been doing and gaming.
You've got a busy week.
It was probably just a busy Saturday.
Yeah. All sorts of different stuff. Well, more games than I had for sure. But that's what happens when you're trying to take down the achievement boss, right? You got to do that. So,
Indeed.
Cool. Well, so topic for this week, as you will see in the title of the video, if you clicked on it, we are going to have a discussion about revisiting games, maybe reasons why people revisit games. And it was originally, the topic came up from people made a list of the games that they revisited the most. And rather than just doing another games list, we thought it'd be fun to have a conversation to include some games, but more around the idea behind why those games are the games that we would potentially look into or pick or other things. So that should be a fun discussion. So Wade, do you want to start us off with?
I think in the spirit of what this was initially supposed to be, we should start with one of your games.
Okay. So, so I can start. So my number one thing or number one reason, not that it's always lists, but I'm a list guy, bullet points guy. So I would say one of the big reasons for me to revisit games is just old multiplayer games that bring back a lot of fun and nostalgia, and I would say that are really easy. And so I have 2 examples here, and I have the cartridges. The one that is the most is NBA Hang Time on the N64. And to go with that, of course, WCW NWO Revenge. Both of these are really easy games. Hang Time's 3 buttons. It's basically like the sequel to NBA Jam. And it's just a really easy game to pick up and play with 4 people. There's 6 total commands. There's Z is turbo, B is shoot and block, and A is pass and steal. And so really easy arcade style game. But it's one that in my collection, I find myself whenever friends come over, it is a really easy game to pull out and play with those people. And then the last few times I've had people over and we've whipped out the N64, we played WCW NWO Revenge, specifically the Royal Rumble game mode, which is, 4 people in the ring, you're beating each other up, and you just knock people out. We do 40 people, so you're just constantly, if you get eliminated, you get a new character. And it's really fun. And I think like that is probably one of my biggest reasons for going back to games and revisiting old games. It's just because like they're really easy to play. Everyone has played NBA Jam, so Hang Time is a really easy transition, or they've played Hang Time and it's just really basic. And pretty much everybody and their mom has played WCW and NWO Revenge, and they love the old wrestling games, and I'd say this is probably the best one. And so I have a lot of friends who like wrestling or played Revenge, and so it's really easy to pull that one out and play it. And so, it's just multiplayer. I think of like another one is like Mario Party 5 for the GameCube or 4 for the GameCube. My friends and I played the heck out of that one, just because it's really easy to pick up and play, and there's not like a steep learning curve to like replay that game with new people or people who have played it before. So that's probably my first thought of talking about revisiting games, is just accessibility to play with friends, like a party game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you brought this topic up, I thought that my mind would automatically go to like, old games that I go back to and revisit again. And granted, there are a number of opportunities for things like that to happen with services like the Nintendo Switch Online, where they'll just dump the whole library of Nintendo and Super Nintendo games on there for you to go back and check those kind of things out. I think they just put Donkey Kong. It's Donkey Kong for the original Game Boy. I think many people call it Donkey Kong 94 because that's the year that it came out. That's just an excellent game all across the board that now, if I wanted to revisit it, the accessibility of me, or the ease of me being able to revisit that, because it's literally just installed on my Switch without me even having to do anything about it, is certainly high on that front. When I was thinking about this initially, I was thinking more towards new games where their monetization strategy is dependent on you going back and revisiting them. So be it Fortnite to get you back in to buy the battle pass or whatever it is for the next season. I know that you've talked about many times before where if a season is bad in Fortnite, you just take a month off and then come back and it'll be a completely different game when you come back again, or hopefully something more agreeable to your tastes. Coming back to revisiting a game on the daily, like Fall Guys, which I would go back in every day just to do all of the challenges as we were going through back in the day. But for me, primarily the way that I end up revisiting a game is when it gets re-released on a newer system. I guess this doesn't apply so much to PC games, although they will try and remaster games on a upscaled PC version or something like that. You had your visual aids, and I will pull out some as well, because we've got this beaut right here, which was even before the Master Chief Collection. They had remastered Halo Combat Evolved in anniversary form, which was just, basically the same game with a fresh set of achievements behind it. I know that I had mentioned Rare Replay earlier today, but when they remastered Gears of War, that was an excellent excuse for me to go back and play through a game that I had played through so many times before. I anticipate that there's going to be a Gears of War 2, 3, and Judgment collection coming out at some point in time for the next-gen systems. Fingers crossed and knock on wood. But, I feel like I don't necessarily go back and revisit a lot of games because of the way that my achievement brain is tuned. If I've already gotten all of the achievements in a game, I'm going to go and play something that perhaps I haven't anymore. Sole exception to that in that same vein is that every once in a while, my buddy Jazz and I will just have to play through the campaign of Gears of War 2, even though we've had those achievements for beating that campaign on Insane unlocked for 10 plus years at this point. but
Yeah.
we'll dip back into those games to see them again. Like, I know that I've mentioned Ninja Gaiden before, and like I've beaten Ninja Gaiden 2 on the original Xbox 360, or the original release on the Xbox 360. I beat Ninja Gaiden 2 Sigma when they've re-released it as a collection of the old ones, and now there's Ninja Gaiden 2 Black that just very recently got released. So I've been forced to revisit that game due to them coming out with supposedly better or newer or prettier or smoother running versions of that game that I've played previously. So
Yeah, so I have a few thoughts on that. I'm not one to revisit like rewatch movies, and I don't usually like replay games. And I'm not a huge like single player story driven type of person when it comes to games, and so for me a lot of it's based around other things. But I wanted to circle back to like you talked about with the Switch library. Because you have the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, the Genesis if you pay for it, N64, Game Boy, different things, and then just emulation in general has come so far, especially on the Steam Deck. I really think that we are definitely in the age of accessibility when it comes to those old games. In the past, you either have to have your old copy of it, you'd have to have a working system, right? Or you'd have to just like try to like maybe emulate it, but it's like emulation was not as good back in the day. But I feel like now it's almost like revisiting games is so much more accessible than it has ever been in the past, especially because of the Switch. But just like in general, like I have a Super Nintendo, and like I'm buying physical copies for it at the moment. But in all reality, like, and I strongly considered this. I mean, I could have just went on archive.com and downloaded the entire Super Nintendo like library. The games are like 500 megabytes per game. Put that on an SD card, and I have the whole Super Nintendo collection in my hands on the Steam Deck, working. That's 800, 900 plus games.
look at Mag out here, ready to sail the high seas.
Well, and so it's interesting though, right? And so I feel like that we're in this age of accessibility where like, and when I was thinking about this, it's like, which cartridges do I pull out and put back in, into the machine? And so I really appreciate, your angles that you're approaching of, yes, accessibility, then that way. But then also, like you said, like, like one of the games I was going to talk about was like, I always seem to find my way back to Fortnite. Like I took like a few years off, but then No Build came back, and like when I'm thinking of like, oh, what could I stream tonight? It's like, well, I could play Fortnite because like everybody knows Fortnite, but I never thought of it in terms of like the Battle Pass, being a thing that it's like bringing us back, because right now like the Battle Pass is not great, but it's if there's a skin that I want, it's like, well, now I have to play. So it's perfect example. Through the Fire and Flames is now available if you play like a game with a party. So I was like, I need to do that because I want to have that song, and so that's a good point of like, battle passes and other incentives per se. Like I know for a long time you were a daily achievement grinder on a lot of different games, and I feel like that might be something as well that kind of like brings you back and revisit some of those games. But yeah, I just want to touch on all that stuff and throw it back to you.
Yeah, and be it positive or negative, like I don't know if I should be more upset that businesses or games these days, these free to play live service kind of games, have sort of commercialized wanting player retention, which goes alongside our revisiting sorts of things. It's like it almost comes back around to like if you are an advertising company and you have the option to advertise for a brand new product, is that more exciting than advertising for like Coca-Cola or M&Ms? Because it's like these are products that have been exactly the same this whole time. Like, is it more exciting to advertise for something that is new and fresh, or to try and remind people of why they liked this thing to begin with, to get them to re-engage with that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Very interesting. I was going to comment before, or no, I wasn't going to comment before. The conversation has always been leading to back before these live service games. After a game released, your incentive to maybe go back and check it out again was when there was a DLC drop. One that always sticks out in my mind was it was for Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and it was called The Da Vinci Disappearance, and it all centered around Leonardo da Vinci. And I had already finished Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, the base game, and I downloaded the DLC, and it was just like everything that I could have hoped for out of revisiting a game that I really enjoyed. I think it was maybe like 7 or 8 main story missions, one excellent little like parkour sort of cathedral puzzle thing that you had to solve, and then a couple of other like miscellaneous little side quests that you got to go on. But I bet it probably didn't take me more than, 2 to 3 hours to knock out the whole DLC, but it was just a great excuse to go back to get peppered with a little bit of content that had come back in. My beloved Destiny 2 that I could not be happier that I don't play anymore was notorious for this, where it would just like drip feed you all of these little things as it went along. And, there was a bit of FOMO involved in that as well. But, that's all that I wanted was you to just come back, revisit this thing. And I feel like the conversation is bleeding a little bit into, your habit games or your routine games that you were talking about. But the final example that I will talk about as a game of revisiting, and it was a revisit out of like necessity because I fell off previously, is my beloved Elden Ring that I'm still playing right now, because this is the third time that I am trying to play Elden Ring. And every time that I come back, I have to start over completely because I'm just lost. Like I have no idea what I did or what I need to do next. So
Yeah.
that has been quite the experience, and I hope that I can stick it out this time and keep on chugging along, and hopefully third time's the charm. I won't have to be revisiting this one a long time off in the future.
Well, and it's such a long game, and I think that's part of maybe the deterrent. Like, let's take a game like Persona 5, right? Like, the campaign for that game is incredible, right? But it's over 100 hours to beat the game, right? And so, like, to me, like, the replayability of a game like that is zero. Like, if you're going to spend 100 hours playing a story game, it's really hard to then start over and do it all over again. At least in my opinion. Now, granted, I have 2,000 hours in League, so it's like I'm just restarting that story, but it's different every time, right? So I have 2 other kind of unique examples of reasons why I go back to games. And one of them I think you would be able to relate to, and one of them is kind of unique to a certain population that I'm a part of. So the first example is, for me, like if I hear a song from a game that I really like, right, I will oftentimes go back and play the game because I want to hear the song or the music. So Ristar is a good example of that. The last week's song of the week was the Pokemon trading card game Grandmaster theme. I love that game, but the music is so cool, and I'm like, ugh, I want to like play it. Mega Man X is another example of that, where like I hear like Storm Eagle's theme, and I'm like, I need to play through this game again. And so there's been a multiple instances of where I will hear a song from a game, think about how awesome the game is, and play it again. Like Streets of Rage is another example. Like I find myself revisiting that one because I hear like the first song, or I hear like Moon Beach, and I'm like, well, that's the first level, and I want to hear this song, and then I end up playing through part of it again. And so, at least with me personally, like music can be an incentive for sure.
No shocker there that music is a connection for you wanting to revisit something.
Shocker,
And,
right?
and granted, in the era before, YouTube's, where you could just go and very easily, listen to whatever it is that you wanted to. If you wanted to hear the end credit song in a video game, guess what? You were going to go and play through that whole dang game again.
Yeah.
Just to listen to the song.
Isn't that crazy? And there's probably a population of people who watch our show that have not ever lived in a world without YouTube, right? Where it's like, oh, I'll just look up this song.
I was thinking earlier today if there is like, and I mean, granted, I just used this as a particular touchstone, and I don't know why it was the case, but if there are a generation now of 20 somethings that have never touched a Nintendo DS, because I feel like of that era of handheld gaming, it was just entirely eclipsed and replaced by smartphones.
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, like I mean, the nearest thing I think that any generation now would have for a handheld would be the Switch or their phone. I feel like that of any newer generations, they have no idea of any other handheld gaming devices.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's a whole nother topic for conversation. But yeah, like I remember many hours of Game Boy Pockets and Game Boy Colors and then Game Boy Advance and, DSs and things like that, which is crazy. PSPs, like people probably never heard of half of that stuff, or they've heard of it, but it's like ancient relics, right? But
I pulled us a bit off topic. You can bring
no,
us
it's
back to
fine.
whatever your second example was.
So my second example, and this has just been an interesting, unique, recent development in the House of Mag, and so that reason being, like I have my son Harrison is 7, right, and so recently we have been playing different games on the consoles. I figured like, okay, what are games that he and I could play that, he's kind of still figuring out games. But like we put in Power Rangers the movie for Genesis, which is a beat 'em up, and I would say I did most of the heavy lifting in that. But it's been fun. Like then I showed him the Power Rangers fighting game on the Sega, and then the other day we played Diddy Kong Racing on the N64, and it's been fun to just like revisit some of these like older games to show him like, oh, like, like these are what dad used to play on when he was your age, like we played some games on, like he played Sonic 2 on the Sega, and he's like, oh, are we going to play the Sega? So like he's now like learning what these old systems are, and obviously like I haven't gone into too much detail, but games that I have not played in years that have just been like sitting on the shelf, it's like now we are kicking the dust off, blowing on the cartridges and getting all the dust out of them. And, he's come with me to go Super Nintendo shopping. And so he picked out like this Spider-Man game, which you're right, it was terrible. It's not, but it's just cool to like, see like a kid that's like, he's 7, he's born in 2018. And it's like, he is playing games on a Sega Genesis and a Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64, and it's fun to show him like, hey, these are the games like Dad used to play. This is like a really fun game and things like that. So that's kind of been a fun little way to revisit some of the old games off the shelf, which has been pretty cool to be able to do with him. So that's just
A friend of mine who has a son that I believe is a couple years older than yours. Apparently, so she is big into retro gaming. So I don't know if she necessarily is putting them on the same path as these things, but I think organically or however it works, because they don't have any Guitar Hero in their house. He thinks that he needs to play Guitar Hero. So now she's scouting around at pawn shops and things, trying to figure out if she could find some Guitar Hero controllers for the PS2 so they can go back and jam out to some, well, I guess, yes, through the fire and flames, maybe, huh? At Fortnite.
yeah. Well, and the thing that's cool is like, yeah, so Harrison loves Fortnite Festival. Like he'll just run around and like even doesn't know what he's doing. He's just still like collaborating with people and playing the songs and this and that and the other. And so they're getting guitar support for Fortnite, and so it's like you're gonna have Rock Band basically and Guitar Hero very soon available on Fortnite. And so it's
I'll have to mention that to her. Maybe she doesn't need to dip back into the PS2 era. If she
yeah,
can
but
get up with
people
time.
are buying though like the old USB guitars, which they're now, because of this, now like newer models and things are coming out. But it's just, yeah, it's cool, and so I'm looking forward to some of that, of like once he's like really into that someday, maybe being like, hey, so this was like actually the OG of this, and like just kind of showing some appreciation to those old games and things like that. So yeah, do you have any other examples or thoughts or discussion points on this
Well,
topic?
I don't feel like it's a very good thing to go out on, but again, with my achievement pilled brain or however it works, a lot of my final revisitation of a game is because I had 2 achievements in it that I never unlocked, and I'm like, I'm gonna go back in and knock those out so I can feel like I'm checklisting, crossing that one off of the list. So, in that sense, I guess it is a good thing to go back and revisit those things for that particular purpose. But
Yeah, I mean, it's just unique because I feel like, obviously, like we both are gamers and we do this show together. But it's so cool. It's so interesting to see. Like, I feel like we have like not different gaming perspectives, but just like a lot of different incentives when it comes to like, you've loved achievements forever. I've never really cared about achievements, although I have this trophy here that's an achievement trophy, right? And then, but I love like multiplayer, and I know you do too, because you used to like grind Halo and Destiny and things like that. But like now I'm spending most of my time doing that, so it's just fun to get different perspectives, like like with this topic, it's like, hey, why do we revisit games, right? And it's just like, there's no wrong answers, right? Everybody revisits games for their own reasons, and so it's fun because like I was thinking it was like, oh, these are the reasons why, and this is probably why everyone does. And then it's like after talking with you, I'm like, so this is not like Wade has a whole different perspective on this than I do, and it's just completely different, which is it's fun, and so I'm curious.
This works, man.
That's why it works. So yeah, well, I'm curious. Everybody who's watching, comment your favorite games to revisit or reasons why you revisit games, and give us some more perspective on this topic in the comments. We would love to see your feedback.
I do need to mention that my wife did bring up when I told her what our topic was for the show. She's like, "Yeah, you don't really revisit games very often," but she said that it's oftentimes external forces that instigate me to go back and revisit games. Like, I probably hadn't played Master Chief Collection in 2 years until you hit me up and said that you guys were going to be playing some games, so we dropped in and checked that out. Or if I see a video on YouTube for a game that I haven't thought about in forever, that might be the instigator for me to go back and revisit something. But yeah, I think this was an excellent discussion about how if money is tight, then revisiting game, like back in the day when revisiting and replaying your old games was your only option,
Right.
it's there's no shame in getting back into it. And as far as revisiting games or like tackling your backlog, those kind of things is concerned, it goes back into previous things we talked about in this show about how like I'm half inclined to not renew my Game Pass subscription, even though Game Pass is fantastic. It's wonderful the number of new games that I've gotten to check out that I never would have touched before if I had to pay full price of admission up front. But I also have an entire, library of games that I've acquired over the years that, it might be time to give them their due,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, interesting. Game Pass.
Good talk, man.
Never
Good
had
talk.
it. Let's move on to achievement of the week, Wade, because you said you previewed it earlier that you're going to talk about a game, so I'm curious.
I said that I couldn't talk about the game because
yes.
I wanted you to be fully surprised by what it was, because I dipped back in and played a couple levels of Sonic Mania.
Aha, nice.
Because there was a specific achievement that I wanted to get that was going to do double damage against whatever boss I was fighting in the achievement game. So the achievement is called Now It Can't Hurt You Anymore. And it is for burning a log bridge in Green Hill Zone with the flame shield.
Ah, yeah, I know.
You have a log bridge that like spins and it's got the little spikes, but they're kind of
Yes.
around like a drill bit, basically, is
Yep.
what it is. So there are safe spots on there at certain points in time. And like right after the bridge, there was a fire shield. So I just doubled back and the shield lit the bridge on fire and it just went down the line,
Yep.
completely gone. And then down below, there was like 4 monitors with rings and an extra life. So that was a nice little surprise that they put in there.
Yeah, and it's a cool thing that they added in Sonic Mania that was not in the original games. So that's pretty cool.
What do you mean? The shields having
Well, the shield's melting. The shield's melting the spinny things because you didn't get fire shields in Green Hill Zone because fire shields were introduced in Sonic 3, but in revisiting Green Hill Zone, they added
you never
that.
crossed a wooden bridge with a fire shield in the old games. I suppose maybe it couldn't have supported it.
You did not burn them, to the best of my knowledge.
In Sonic 3, when were the shields introduced? 2 or 3?
Well, 2 had just the regular shield, and then 3
just
introduced the elemental shields. Yep.
Did 3 also have the elemental shields that had an extra function, like the electric one? Did the electric one like give you a double jump and
It gave you double jump and it pulled rings. Yep.
And
then the fire one gave
like,
you the dash.
across the screen. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yep.
I'm sorry this is turning into just shield talk with Megan. Wait. Did your fire shield completely disappear if you went underwater in the old games?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That kind of caught me off guard when I dropped into some water in Sonic Mania with the fire shield, and it just completely disappeared. I'm like, well, thank goodness I burned that bridge. Otherwise, I never would have gotten this achievement that I was trying to get so hard.
That's right.
And the bubble shield, you could just breathe in forever if you had that underwater. Huge boon. Oh.
Yes. Good.
So that has been achievement of the week / shield talk.
Yep. There you go. You heard it here first. What was the name of the achievement again? It can't hurt you anymore.
Now it can't hurt you anymore. And it did this weird thing that I don't have in front of me right now, unfortunately, where the achievement description was something different before I unlocked it. So after I unlocked it, it said what I had done. It said burnt a log bridge in Green Hill Zone. But before I unlocked it, I think it said something like, what would happen if you walked across a wooden bridge with a fire shield?
Mm-hmm. That's
Try
cool.
and incentivize you to go and do that nonsense.
Interesting. That's cool. Cool. Well, I'm glad. I'm always happy to see a Sonic game in our show. So, on that note, song of the week this week is a awesome song that is new, and I heard it for the first time at the Video Game Awards 2024. The band played it as it was nominated for Game of the Year. Excuse me. And that is the battle theme from Metaphor Refantismo, or whatever that name is called. The game is called Fantasio, whatever. And there is a monk that is chanting during the build-up to the part that they play in the video game music orchestra for the Game Awards, which if you have not seen that video of the compilation, it is amazing, and the Balatro theme in that is just so good. But the battle theme is really cool, and that is a long game, so you get to hear it a lot during that game. But as somebody who doesn't play JRPGs, it is a fun listen every once in a while. And so it's just the battle theme from Metaphor Refantasio.
I don't know if I've ever read it. That's just how I've heard it said. So
everybody says
what I've heard before.
Everybody says we just dog on JRPGs on this show, but that is a topic for another day about the music from those games. But we did show it love today in Song of the Week. So anyway,
before we throw to the song, Meg, I mean, if there's a monk chanting, then it's clearly just an homage to the far superior song from Halo, the theme from Halo.
We're gonna get to that one. It will happen.
Okay, I'm gonna keep being the bug in your ear.
You heard it here first. All right. Well, to keep things concise, we are gonna hop off here. Thank you guys so much for watching. We are on episode 11, which is crazy. We appreciate the love and the support, and we appreciate the comments. I don't always get to respond to them, but I appreciate. Whoa, it's zooming into my face. Whoa! If I do this, look at this. This is my new camera. Okay, we're just gonna leave it like this. Anyway, thank you for your support. I'm not gonna try to figure this out, but apparently my new camera, if I do things, it'll zoom on my face. So this is Meg. That's been Wade. We're out of here before my camera freaks out anymore. Bye. Have a good week.